I feel like I'm home. Hello, family. Do you know what animal this is on the screen? This is a lion in a Venezuelan zoo. They fed it pumpkins and fruit. A vegetarian lion. I'm sure you're not surprised to learn that it did not survive. According to Smithsonian, lions are obligate carnivores. In other words, eating meat is a crucial part of their purpose and identity. Obvious? Maybe. As obvious as the fact that bees pollinate. It's their purpose. And if they don't, not only will they suffer, but so will their environment. Such are the consequences of living outside of one's purpose. Every animal has a role, a purpose, except, apparently, humans? Ask what humans are for and the answers begin to scatter. I normally hear things like my job, my religion, maybe even a sport or a game. This confusion is what I call the false mystery. You know, a paleontologist can identify the purpose in a bone from or in an organism. But we pretend that we don't know our own when we look in the mirror. We pretend that the office is our ecosystem. We pretend civilization is our home. But it's not. So why do we pretend? Well, when we examine our civilizational norms and compare them with other non-civilized societies, such as hunter-gatherers, we often think that our way is superior or more advanced. But let's be clear. You are animals. I am an animal. This is not a metaphor. This is a fact. And the consequences of denying this fact are very real. One specific consequence is called evolutionary mismatch, a framework widely used to understand non-communicable diseases such as cancer, obesity, diabetes. We evolved for one world, but we live in another. A human's body doesn't only expect natural and organic foods, but it expects to work for these foods through walking, maybe climbing, even running. So we supplement this. Take dogs, for example. Your veterinarian may ask you to ensure that your dog is going on walks or playing fetch. This is in order to mimic the exercise your dog would naturally get in the wild from walking with the pack all day or chasing down a meal. But the reality is, our doctors and our nutritionists ask us sometimes to go on a diet. Or maybe they ask you to remove processed sugar-filled foods from your diet. That is to get as close as possible to the food that your body expects, or the food that your ancestors may have ate. Maybe berries, nuts, or meat from a food forest. But today, our environment does not meet our ancestral expectation. This mismatch is why Julian F. Aurelius, a professor at Princeton University, says that the environment that humans evolved for is radically differs from the one that we currently experience. Consequently, the traits that were once advantageous are now mismatched, disease causing. Humans are increasingly obese, depressed, diabetic, cancer-stricken ever since the rise of civilization. Family, these are not mysteries. No, these are symptoms. These biologists are trying to tell us that we are animals outside of our natural habitat. A lot like that lion. Let's try something. Let's try a scenario, okay? Let's say, for whatever reason, you leave home and you leave your dog there alone. And for whatever reason, you never come back. Now, this is a hard question for the dog owners in here. I have dogs, but the question is, what would happen to that dog? Put your thumbs up if you think the dog would survive. Put your thumbs down if you think the dog would not. Let me see him, let me see him, let me see him. Don't be nervous, don't be shy. Okay. Let's try another scenario. Let's say, for whatever reason, civilization collapsed. Something civilization frequently does due to its fragility throughout history. But the question is, what would happen to most of us? Do you think most of us would survive? Put a thumbs up if you think so. Put a thumbs down if you don't. Right, so a lot of thumbs down. Well, that would be correct. But why? See, when you domesticate an organism, when you domesticate an animal, you make that organism dependent upon you. But now it's no longer free because it lacks its independence, because it needs you in order to survive. That has been our relationship with civilization ever since its inception. It's the reason why, though you may feel this mismatch, you never change it. It's the reason why, though you may feel like you were made for something different, you never leave it. Family, I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You've been domesticated. I used to teach in a city called, you might have heard of it, Washington, D.C. And I used to teach my kids, let me tell you, I love those kids, right? And we had this phrase that brought us all closer. It was called Ubuntu. Ubuntu means interconnectedness between an individual and all things. I shall teach you as I once taught them. When I say Ubuntu, you're going to say, I am because we are. Then I'm going to say Ubuntu again, and you're going to say, we are because I am. Don't worry, if you do get a little lost, it's right up here on the slide. All right, I know some of y'all was worried. Let's try it. Ubuntu.
I am because we are.
Ubuntu.
We are because I am.
Now that was good, but it sounded a little bit like in front of like one of those swirly TVs. Like, yes, like. So we're going to try again with some energy, okay? Ubuntu.
I am because we are.
Ubuntu.
We are because I am.
You see, when things are working in their collective purpose, they begin to make sense. Like, for example, we are hunter-gatherers. And no, we were never unintelligent. Professor Jose Iriarte, an archaeologist at the University of Exeter, says, by creating dark earth, the early inhabitants of the Amazon rainforest were able to cultivate soil in an agroforestry system. In other words, hunter-gatherers created the Amazon rainforest as we know it today. And this wasn't uncommon. Humans, hunter-gatherers, are what we would call ecosystem engineers. An ecosystem engineer is an organism that significantly modifies its own environment. Hunter-gatherers, believe it or not, thousands of years ago performed brain surgery, amputations. They were building structures from mammoth tusk. We didn't simply just survive. No, we thrived in rhythm with our biology. Some of us still do to this day. Civilization did not bring technology, but civilization did bring mass extinction, systemic oppression, war, destruction of the environment, destruction of the human health. I'm not exaggerating when I say that civilization could destroy the world. if left as is. According to Gerardo Ceballos and Paul R. Ehrlich, two prominent conservationists, scientists, they said, according to our analysis, it emphasizes that humanity or our society, our global society, is destroying other organisms at an accelerating rate, initiating an episode of mass extinction, unparalleled for 65 million years. And worst of it, this thing that we call civilization, it has convinced us that it's a fundamental part of what makes us human. Therefore, it has convinced us that the foods we need for our bodies are not in the forest, but only in the market or the farm. It has convinced us that we were made to work a 9 to 5. So I know a lot of y'all thinking in your head, so what's the alternative? I mean, what do you want us to do? Like, do you want us to go back living in caves? Or do you want us to live a nomadic lifestyle? If you want. I mean, you could do that. But I think I have a solution that will move humanity forward. FFFHAMS, FAMS. Food, forest, foraging, hunting, anti-fragile, modern society. Imagine if we never stopped foraging. Imagine if we never stopped creating technology separate from civilization, separate from harming the earth. That's what this is. A new but ancient blueprint. One that centers around something called a food forest. So the question becomes, can a food forest sustain a large family or even a community? Well, the Nevaeh family grew between 6,000 to 7,000 pounds of produce per year on 1/10 of an acre. And 90% of that food came from a food forest. This is called permaculture. Permaculture is a food production system that mimics the natural ecosystem, allowing us humans to not only get food that's natural and organic and good for us, but to collect it in a way that fits our ancestral expectation, our ancestral needs. Instead of living out of our purpose and relying on unsustainable jobs and economies that can collapse from one person's mistake, no, we're talking communities that are anti-fragile. Because to be anti-fragile means to grow stronger in the chaos. You know, this system will use technology that brings us closer. Technology that doesn't only heal humanity, but it heals the earth. Ubuntu. Hey, Ubuntu.
We are because I am.
Ubuntu.
I am because we are.
Ubuntu.
We are because I am.
I want people to build this system around the world because I truly believe that once we return to our collective purpose, the health of humanity and the health of the earth will return. So if I had it my way, every single last one of you, yeah, I'm talking to y'all, all of you will go out today, get a bunch of acres, and just start building FAMs. But I have come to understand that small steps are crucial. So here's all I'm asking. Go home and grow one plant that feeds. Grow one plant that heals. This can be the beginning of your foraging and the beginning of your food forest. Then also, I would like you to go home and tell one person about FAMS. This can be the beginning of your self-sustaining community. Well, at last, I leave you with this. Civilization is a zoo made for humans. Humans have forgotten what they are. They tell you if you're unhappy, it's your fault. But Is it the fault of a lion in a cage that is unhappy? Is it the fault of a bird in a cage that it cannot fly? Will we blame all the fish in the tanks when they no longer swim? Will we blame the tiger behind glass who no longer hunts? You were made for something, but you were not made for a 9 to 5. Thank you.